Welcome to SPL Express with myself, Abhishek Ravikrishnan, and I'm joined by former professional footballer Rhysh Roshan Rai. We've had a riveting weekend in the SPL, and we're looking ahead to Matchweek 22 as we approach the business end of the season. But before we look ahead, let's recap what happened over the weekend. Tampines Rovers stretched their unbeaten run in the league to 10 matches after beating Young Lions 3-2. Tanjong Pagar grabbed a late draw against Geylang International, while Balestier Khalsa continued their winning run, edging DPMM 3-2. And that big one, Albirex Negata, coming back from a goal down to beat the Lion City Sailors 3-1. So that means Albirex and Tampines are tied at the top of the table, with Albirex having a game in hand. Sailors now 5 points off the pace. Balestier Khalsa, meanwhile, have tightened their grip on fourth spot with 33 points on the board. And here's what's coming up this week. Sailors entertain Tanjong Pagar on Thursday as they look to return to winning ways. Balestier and Hougang lock horns on Friday, while there's a doubleheader on Saturday. Albirex Negata at home to Young Lions, while OTH will host the Eastern Derby between Tampines and Geylang. So let's kick things off with the match of the week. Balestier up against Hougang. Roshan, Balestier in some very good form, 4 wins in 4 for them. How do you see them, or what's worked for them so far? Because we've spoken about the defense.
Yep.
It's not actually gotten better per se.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they're still scoring goals and they're scoring at an incredible rate. I mean, you look at the fact that the 11 games that they've won this season, all 11 of them, they've scored at least 3 goals in. Right, so that's absolutely outstanding. I mean, again, I go through the fact that I've never seen a side, I think, across the world of football concede as many as they have and still be in the position that they are, in the top 4 and potentially pushing for a top 3, maybe. So yeah, the fact that their goal scoring is able to sort of carry them through matches and carry them towards the 3 points has been brilliant. That turnaround in form, as you said, the 4 wins on the trot. I've gone through some records and I can only go up to 2004, and from what I've seen in terms of number of wins, consecutive wins in a single season, this is the first time that Balestier Khalsa have done that. So this gives them an opportunity, this match against Hougang, to stretch that to 5. It is really looking very good, and I think that confidence is flowing through that side, especially in an attacking sense.
Do you think top 4 secured for them now?
They've got a tough few fixtures to come. There's this one against Hougang, which could be tricky potentially for Balestier. They also have a game against Geylang coming up, I think in a couple of weeks or so. If they win those 2, I think they are secure in terms of that top 4 spot, because they've got the rest of the top 3, I think, to play. And if they beat the Lion City Sailors, I mean, that could make things very interesting in terms of a push for a top 3 spot as well. They're only 6 points behind the Sailors now, so I think they should be looking ahead rather than looking behind them. They should look forward and see whether they can really push the Lion City Sailors and try and finish in the top 3. But top 4 finish is looking good for them this season. One
man who's been instrumental for Balestier is Ryoya Taniguchi, and he's gone ahead in the goal scoring charts, up ahead of Maxime Lestienne.
Yeah.
What have you made of his contribution so far, and how do you see that race for the Golden Boot panning out?
Incredible contribution from Taniguchi. I mean, 20 goals this season, 5 assists for them, and he's leading Lestienne. And everyone, most people out there are saying Lestienne should be the SPL Player of the Year. He might be the SPL Player of the Year, but Taniguchi is giving it a really good push, a really strong push, and he's playing for a side who aren't expected to be title challengers. He's playing for Balestier Khalsa, and no disrespect to them, but I think people out there know exactly what I mean. It's a lot more of a challenge, I think, when you're trying to get goals for that side. Look, he's been fantastic for them. He creates opportunities, but he also has stepped up in terms of being that difference maker up front and putting the goals away. And really, what he's done for them in terms of his development from year on year in the SPL has been really great to watch.
What's even more interesting is that he's not an out-and-out striker, but he's getting positions to score these goals. So what do you think of how Peter de Roo has set them up as well? Because Peter de Roo has made a big difference to this team as well.
Yeah, of course he has. And we've spoken about Peter de Roo and his approach to this side. And he's got very good sort of, when I look at them play, I like their patterns in attack. And Taniguchi, almost to me at times, seems to be given quite a bit of freedom in an attacking sense. He's allowed to drift across the forward lines, get into the penalty area. They've got a target man in Hoshino that he can sort of play off. And Hoshino can draw defenders out of position. Taniguchi can then go and fill in and make a run into the box. But also with the fact that Taniguchi isn't an out-and-out goal scorer, I think that's a great point. Lestienne as well for Lion City Sailors, who's more of a winger or an inside forward, depending on the roles that he plays in certain matches. That the 2 of them are leading the way in the Golden Boot race is brilliant, because when you look at the history of the league, it's usually been won by centre forwards or strikers. I think you have to go back to something like 2003, the last time an attacking midfield player won the Golden Boot Award, and I think that was Perez de Oliveira. So it's been a while, and it makes for a refreshing change. And whether it says anything about changes in styles of the league or of certain teams, I think that's an interesting discussion to be had another time.
Well, we'll talk about Lestienne now and the Lion City Sailors. They play Tanjong Pagar. Lestienne, he's now second in their goal-scoring charts, but he hasn't scored in the last 2 games. And that's coincided with the fact that the Sailors have not won in the last 2 games as well.
Yeah, actually, when you look at the Sailors' record this season, the 4 games that they've lost, Lestienne hasn't been able to get on the score sheet. So you could almost say when he doesn't score, Sailors go on to lose. He scored in their wins, he scored in their draws this season. Again, you ask questions about whether they are overly reliant on him. I think the answer is quite obvious. I think they are, because he not only gets goals, he creates them as well. Which is strange, because this is a side that is full of talent, right? We keep being told about the talent that they have, and I keep talking about the talent that they have, but they've severely underachieved, not just this season, but last season as well, from the Lion City Sailors. And they need someone like Lestienne, but it almost seems as if you try and keep Lestienne quiet if you're an opposition side, and that is half the battle sort of won, which shouldn't be the case for a side like the Lion City Sailors. They need to be developed into a team that has variation in players who can step up and contribute in terms of chance creation, in terms of scoring the goals.
Talking about quality of players, they got a new signing, Ricardo Zivkovic. He played his full game last week against Albirex. What do you make of his performance?
I thought it was good for a first start. Zivkovic, we expect him to have obviously that individual quality with his CV, with the pedigree that he has. He's at a good age, and I think he played his part. He ran into the channels well. He showed his quality in those one-on-ones against Albrex's defenders when he had the opportunity to. Got himself on the score sheet as well. It's something for him to build on, and it looks encouraging for the Lion City Sailors. I mean, they need these big signings to really sort of help them through along the way, and to really prove and to show everyone why the big money is being spent on these players coming in.
Question about Sailors, quick one about them now. Have they bottled that title race?
Well, I mean, it's with the Lion City Sailors, you always expect them to be challenging all the way through. And now with 5 games to go, it looks like it's beyond them. Whether they've bottled it, I don't really know what that word bottled means. Like they've thrown it away in a sense. But what's funny is that you think about last season when they made the coaching change with Kim Do-hoon after they beat Balestier 4-0. They made that coaching change. Lalic came in and stepped in, and then he won the next 3 matches. Great scorelines, right? He scored lots of goals.
It was downhill from after.
And then they lost 4 games after that. This season, the same thing has happened, or similar sort of thing has happened. They made the coaching change after Vidakovic's last win. They won 3 in a row, and then now they've lost 2 in a row. So the pressure's on. I mean, even though the new coach has just sort of come in, the pressure's already on, because he's already lost 2 games. Vidakovic only lost 2 games in the time he was in charge at the Lion City Sailors. So I guess if you want to call it bottled it, sure, you can. But it's been very disappointing. It's been a really hugely disappointing season. And again, you say there's got to be another inquest, because they have to be challenging for the title, and they have to be pushing all the way through towards at least the last couple of match weeks in the SPL.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race between Albirex and Tampines Rovers. Tampines up against Geylang International this week. They are back in the title race, because a couple of weeks ago we were saying that, look, they struggled after they drew with Albirex. They drew against the Sailors. It didn't quite work out for them at that point. But they've been unbeaten in 10 games.
They have been.
So they have been in decent form. Do you think they're peaking, or they're hitting their stride at the right time of the season?
I mean, when you look at the results, yes, they're picking up those wins. They're unbeaten. They're grinding them out. But I still think the draws have sort of really hurt them. And when you actually look at some of the matches, at times it seems like they're just about, they're not being convincing in terms of those wins. It's just about dragging themselves across the line to pick up the 3 points, which great. It's good enough because it puts you in there, and at this stage of the season, it's just about picking up the wins. However you do it, fantastic. But there's still quite a bit of quite a few games to go. 5 matches for them. They've got Albirex still to come. They have got the Lion City Sailors still to come. And then they've got Geylang, who they haven't beaten this season. There have been 2 draws between those sides, and Geylang always seem to turn it on when it comes to the Eastern Derby. So it's not going to be easy for them in this Eastern Derby against Geylang International. And so it is going to be tough for Tampines. And the position that they put themselves in now, it gives them a shot at it, yes, but they are still reliant built on Albirex Niigata faltering. And Albirex Niigata have that cushion, as I mentioned, because of their superior goal difference. The fact is they can lose to Tampines and still go on and win the rest of their matches and still go on and win the league on goal difference. So there is that factor there. Albirex know how big that win was against the Lion City Sailors, and you could see it with the reactions from the goals that they scored. Even Yoshinaga was there celebrating.
Yep, so let's quickly touch on the result. Albirex against Sailors, they beat them. Albirex up against Young Lions this weekend. What was your biggest takeaway from that game last week?
The way Albirex fought all the way through, and they didn't give up. I mean, they conceded a penalty. They could have felt like things were going against them. I didn't agree with the penalty decision, but you got to get on with it, right? It was put away by Živkovic. And Albirex responded. I mean, they had their first choice goalkeeper going off injured as well, Hassan Sani. They had a second choice keeper coming in, or even third choice keeper coming in, Hairul Nizam. Wasn't playing much football. But the way that they fought in the last 15 minutes or so, they absolutely deserved to win the game, just based on their overall performance. But the way they fought and the way they found that courage to go through and pick up all those goals. And they didn't just, it wasn't an unconvincing victory, it was a very convincing victory for Albirex Niigata, especially with such a limited time left in the match, for them to turn it around the way they did. They know, again, repeat this, they know it was such a huge win, because when you think of the matches they have coming up, just the Tampines in terms of it being a big one, the other sides that they have coming up on the fixture list, they have already beaten those teams twice this season. So if you're looking at past results being an indicator of future performance, perhaps you look at that and say Albirex are looking very good coming into the final few weeks of the season.
Let's quickly touch on the opponents for this weekend. Young Lions, they have a new head coach in the form of Nazri Nasser. He's back. He's been in this role before. What kind of impact do you think that's going to have on this team?
I don't think it's going to have a great grand impact. You know, he was there before and they already struggled then. And, I don't feel like it's going to be much of a change. You look back to their last game against Tampines where for large parts of that second half, they were playing with the advantage of an extra player and it still didn't look good. It still looked like Tampines were the ones controlling the game. And it took them to go down 3-1 before they started to show a bit of a response. So I'm not sure it's going to have a big impact. I don't think it's going to have much of an impact against a rampant Albirex Niigata side who will be looking at this game thinking we can really build on that victory over the Lion City Sailors against this Young Lions team.
So the game's on Saturday. Our feature game of the week is on Friday. It's between Balestier Khalsa and Hougang United. That game, our coverage begins at 7:15 with Roshan and Shashi Kumar building up to kick off. So that's all the time we have for this week's episode. Be sure to catch all the games live on our SPL YouTube page. We'll see you again on the next episode of SPL Express.